Of course, you think I don't want to have a red carpet premiere for one of my movies? Of course I do. I don't give a shit about it. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the fame or anything like that. But that would be nice. A little recognition on a global scale, sure. Because let's be nice for a second. The Bradley Coopers, all the people that we watch, those people have worked their fucking faces off. Let's just be very clear. Nobody makes it just overnight. Like nobody. And that's another thing that like pisses me off when people say like, "Oh, how did this person come?" or "That person has no talent," or whatever. It's like, regardless of their level of talent, they still fucking made it, and you cannot make it without a enormous amount of work and discipline and time and sacrifice and all that.
That is Ryan McCoy this week on the Do It For Yourself podcast. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode here on the Do It For Yourself podcast. My name is Ian, and I just want to say thank you for joining us on the Do It For Yourself podcast. I am the host. This is my podcast, and each week I have the opportunity to sit down with someone who is doing it for themselves. And that means that they are not seeking the approval of anyone else. They are not looking for someone to tell them that they are on the right path. They know internally that they are on the right path. They are chasing their dream, and they are doing something that they want to do. My guest this week is Ryan McCoy, and Ryan is an independent filmmaker. He is a mental health activist, and he really wants to pull back the Hollywood curtain, as he says, and kind of show some of the things behind that curtain in the filmmaking world that are leading to some people getting burnt out very easily. And so we get a chance to dive into Ryan's story about how he got into the filmmaking and how he is doing what he is doing now and chasing his dream on the filmmaking side, but also chasing his dream of pulling back this curtain and showing some of the unhealthy practices that are going on in Hollywood, and some of these reasons why people are really getting burnt out chasing their dream in Hollywood. Um, this was a very, very emotional conversation, and Ryan really put himself out there during this conversation. So I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. It really opened my eyes to what's going on in Hollywood and what's going on with some of these filmmakers and actors and everyone who's kind of got their hands in the pot out in Hollywood. And I'm hoping that it opens your eyes to something that you may not be aware of as well. So without further ado, here is my interview with Ryan. All right, Ryan, you ready to get going?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool, man. Cool. So, Ryan, I just want to say welcome to the Do It For Yourself podcast. As we were just chatting before we started the recording here, you mentioned that you have a lot of avenues and a lot of roads that we can go down. And I'm sure that we're going to get a chance to go down quite a few of them. But I'm really looking forward to exploring your story and a little bit more about what you're up to. But you are an independent filmmaker who is currently living in LA right now. And so, what are you working on right now? Do you have any projects that are coming up? Did you just recently finish a big project, or is this something that's kind of ongoing and you always have something that you're working on?
The latter, definitely. Right now I got a few pots boiling. Just to rattle them off real quick. I have one. I'm a writer as well. That's my number one. That's the thing I love to do the most, and the thing I'm best at. So I adapted a couple's. Um, they wrote a book. They've been dealing. It's a true story. They've been dealing with their daughter's drug and opioid addiction for the last like 10 years or so. They live up in outside of Seattle, literally right by my hometown. So I adapted a screenplay for that, and I have an actor who's going to star in it, and he's also going to direct and option the rights. So we're trying to get the money for that. Um, I have a graphic novel that I just finished. I adapted from one of my screenplays called Apocalypse. So we're trying to now looking for a publisher for that. And I am currently writing, outlining in the trenches, outlining a TV series, and I'm co-creating with a Brazilian American director, and we're taking it to Netflix and have some other actors' names that we're going to try to get attached and try to get that going. And it's set in Brazil, and he has ties to Brazilian financing. It would be shot down there and stuff like that. So yeah, that's that. I mean, I think any filmmaker at any level has kind of things in different formations of the ultimate end goal is to, for me, is to create a feature film or an end product, but any which way to get about there because the money is the key. The financing is the key. So those are the three main things I have going on right now. And then I have a YouTube channel that I do record vlogs, kind of just trying to give as much information as I can. Do some podcasts where I find guests or friends of mine that are in the industry and all different facets, and we talk about the industry. And I'm really, my goal is to pull back the curtain that so many people have when you say Hollywood or LA filmmaker. All my friends back home, and that like, oh, you make movies. It's like, no, I eat shit for a living.
Yeah.
Like, and once every 10 years I get to make a movie.
And
If I'm lucky.
you mentioned it there, but you're gonna take this project that you're working on to Netflix. Do you really see that as being the way that a lot of things are going? Like you said, you wanted to make a feature film, but do you think your feature film is going to go onto the big screen, like movie
I'm
theater,
a
or
I'm a bit of an anarchist
okay?
in this industry. I've kind of turned my back against it, and because it's so ugly, and it's done so much harm to so
Netflix
many
or
people. Hollywood, the industry, and so
gotcha? Okay.
so when like everybody asks that question always, well, streaming Netflix, and it's like my answer is no shit, people. My head's 15 years from now. I know what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I'm more in the. Uh, I'll give you a quick story. About 3-4 years ago, I have a 5-year-old son. 3-4 years ago, I'm sitting on the couch with him, movie on our big screen, surround sound. Da, da, da. I can't get his attention away from him watching YouTube and watching a woman like paint her fingernails. And something literally clicked in my head, and I said, when he's 25, there will be no more TV or cable or wire. Like to think of where storytelling in a visual medium, which is what I do, where that will be in 20 years, we have no idea. But I know it's not going to be anything that's happened before, like cable or TVs. And I'm all for the getting back to the art of great storytelling, because I think movies are dead. The movies, the cinema that comes out today is just, it's horrible. If you know anything or you do any sort of study or research about storytelling, I'm talking back to the days of like Aristotle and stuff like that. Storytelling is just so dead. So I'm a big fan of just getting it out there and, again, like I said, exposing it, showing how to do it. I want everybody to be able to tell a story and make movies. The problem is we have the technology, but the problem is nobody knows how to tell a story well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm kind of trying to adapt that. So to go back to the streaming question with Netflix, yeah, Netflix is killing it. Netflix is thinking 15, 20 years in terms of their plan. They know what the hell they're doing. The reason this series would be good for Netflix is it's just the length of material, and I just think cable or network television and cable TV is kind of dying, even though numbers don't statistically show it right now.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just a crash coming. And like movies are making more money than they ever had at the box office, but it's just every great empire falls at its height. And it's just when you're in it. I mean, I'm living here and I see it. You just get a sense or feeling of it, and I know there's a big drop coming soon. And so when that drop does happen, that's when we're going to see an explosion, hopefully, of a new wave of filmmakers that grew up with YouTube and stuff like that can produce quality content, and put it out for free, or for like make the release of the movie more universal than just like I have this one great script and I'm gonna, instead of pushing all this weight onto one film, getting one film made and getting it right, and that's going to be the one that makes it, helps me make it and break it. Like those days are dead, So,
well, look at somebody like Casey Neistat. You know what I mean? I mean, Casey Neistat, in my opinion, I think is a great storyteller. There's probably some things fundamentally that he's not great at, and he's already admitted multiple times on his channel that there are definitely things cinematically and camera work that he is not the best at, but he's really good at telling a story, and he's now built his career, like the foundation of his career was YouTube. He was telling these stories, releasing these videos on YouTube, and now he's had, deals with Samsung. He's had deals over here. He's had deals all over the place. And this was all just based upon launching stuff on YouTube. And I mean, think about how amazing it would be. I know like it's cool that you can, launch at one weekend in a box office, but like I'm the type of person that would rather sit at home and watch it at home. So if you could launch this full movie that I could watch on YouTube or Netflix or whatever, a streaming device, and I wouldn't have to go anywhere, I wouldn't have to go to the box office, like that would be phenomenal. It would be absolutely phenomenal. And with like, I know that people have their own opinions about Patreon and stuff like that, but like crowd-funded and crowd-supported stuff it's way more common now. So there is a way for these people who are using free platforms such as podcasts and vlogs and all these other platforms online. There's ways for those people to make money, and there's ways for those people to be supported by the people who are enjoying their work. So I think that yes, this is definitely the way that it's going. I think it's just going to take some time, like you said.
100%, and 99.98% of people, and this is, I think, spans any industry, but I know I can speak for mine. Everybody's looking at right now and can't look ahead. Dude, I'm 38. I got at least a good 30 years of storytelling left in me. 30 years. I got plenty of time, man. Like, why not educate myself and become aware and in tune with digital and all the different platforms that are popping up? Forget about Netflix. Let's talk about Facebook Watch. Let's talk about IGTV. What's IGTV going to do in 10 years? Like, that might be as popular as like NBC. So let's figure out how to make content for that platform. You know what I mean? But you can't just do the same thing and just put it on there. Like, how do you adapt to each platform? How do you what type of people are watching Facebook Watch shows? Because they're starting to get A-list talent, so the talent knows where it's going. It's just pattern recognition. It's just paying attention to what's going. That's literally my life every single day, every single day. First of all, I watch at least one movie every single day of my life.
I saw the giant stack of movies that you have behind you. Like, yeah.
And when I say that, I'm not joking. Like, I average one movie a day every single day. I watch everything. So I pay attention. But on top of that, also every morning, I read all the trades. So I read all what deals are happening, where money is going, actors, studios, just log it, pay attention. These are the types of things that on my YouTube channel and stuff, or when I'm talking about, I try to push to people of like like the importance of knowing that stuff. Like, that stuff is important. I think, it makes you not sound like an idiot. It makes you sound like you know what you're talking about. And this industry is so brutal, and people are so quick to write you off the second you sound like you don't know what you're talking about, that I just think all that type of knowledge is power. So so I read those things every single day, and I watch and I pay attention. I don't watch I don't watch TV shows because it's too much time. I can't invest that much time, but I'll find out from people, or I'll read enough reviews and kind of, or see how many people are watching it. So, I don't know, I kind of forget where I was going on that tangent, but, yeah, I'm just immersed in it, big time.
Now I want to track it back a little bit and get to how you got to LA and where you are right now. You know what I mean? So, you mentioned that you're 38, so you've been doing this for a little while, but how did you get into this industry? Did you start off with your writing and then you pivoted a little bit to get into the filmmaking, or did it start with the filmmaking and you pivoted and added the writing? How does that play out?
Yeah, I'm literally that cliche, like, got a camera, or like, always like imagination, playing Legos, playing out in the woods. I got a camera. My family did in like 4th or 5th grade, and I remember thinking, like, wondering why, because we never went on vacations. We weren't like, and my parents got divorced like fairly young. It wasn't like I was like, why did we get a video camera? And I almost think they almost got it for me because I was the only one that used it, played it. And so I would spend hours and hours, and I'd do stop motion with like Legos or Star Wars toys, and I'd recreate some of my movies. And then I started getting my friends to like be in them, and we again started like reenacting ones. And then writing came really early. I was writing stories at a pretty young age, and then like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I would write stories, and then I would turn those, and then I would film those stories. I'd make them into little movies and just edit in camera. And then high school, I took video production. It was the only class I got an A in. I took it every single semester I could. I still speak to my teacher to this day.
That's right.
He's a mentor of mine. Yeah, a big fan of mine. It's really cool to connect with him. And then my dad wanted me to go to university. I went. I got kicked out after a year. I kind of slummed around for a little bit, and then I went to Art Institute in Seattle for film and video, and that was really eye-opening. That was really great. That was a 2-year program, and I almost got my degree, but I didn't care because coming out the gates of school, I made my first feature film using, like, I had a pretty tight-knit group of people that we're going to school with, and I had written a screenplay. I broke up this girl. It was pretty dark. Like, I wrote it in my sister's basement, like not a lot of lights. It was, okay story. But what I did is I came out, and this was all paid out of pocket. Like, my dad gave me money for it, and we're talking a few $1,000s, not talking anything crazy.
Right.
Had a buddy of mine come in and invest for the post-production on it. And it's a piece of shit, and it never got distribution and never saw the light of day. But I got it in the can. I wrote a screenplay and I produced the film and saw it from beginning to end. And it played in a movie theater in a festival down in LA. And that was so I made the film in Seattle, sent it out to festivals, got accepted to a festival here in Los Angeles. I knew one person. I didn't even know him. He was a year ahead of me and we went to the same high school. My mom knew him. I was like, oh, name sounds familiar. It's the only person I knew in LA. I came down here to see LA. I came here with my friend who had directed the film. We met with him, and I remember just looking around, and I was like, fuck, I got to move here.
And you came down from, where did you come down from? From the Washington area?
Yeah, Seattle.
Okay.
Actually, Everett. Yeah, just north there.
And what's that town like?
Down, my hometown?
Yeah, is it like super small?
It's about 100,000 when it has a naval base there, aircraft carrier.
Okay.
So when that's in town, it's about 100,000 people, It's really dirty and disgusting. It's really white trash. They have a massive opioid and overdose epidemic. Mm-hmm. Kids are dying on the streets every day. People I went to high school with are dying like weeks ago. So it makes me very I want to fix it. So yeah, that's where I'm from originally. And then so that movie kind of brought me to LA. I did move back to Seattle, started working in the restaurant business, but then eventually moved back down to LA and have been here steadily for 12 years.
And
for the last 12 years.
Was that a massive change for you, or how did it compare to where you were living in Seattle? I mean, I know that you just said it's a fairly large town, and there is the opioid and addiction problem, but I think that at least nowadays, unfortunately, that seems to be kind of taking place really anywhere. But
it was it was super big, but it's so spread out that it doesn't seem that intimidating, I guess. I was so excited because movies were everywhere, and every discussion I had at bars or whatever was centered around movies, and somebody was always in the industry, that stuff is intoxicating, and that's one of the lures of Hollywood, like kids and money and all that shit, which, by the way, every single person does, whether they admit it or not. That when you first get here, like the first year in LA, Hollywood is like magic, because everybody, and you like, oh, so-and-so knows this person going to this party, and and you get to see, once you start tasting it, it's so addictive. You want more.
Yeah. I mean, when I went out there, I was out in LA. I think I spent about 2 days in LA, and even just being out in California, I was out in the Carlsbad area and everything too. It's just it's a phenomenal area, and I loved it so much. But I had to come back to the East Coast. I had a plane ticket to come home, so I would definitely like to get back out there one day, but we'll see what happens. But
yeah,
you said you're very passionate about writing, and you're very passionate about storytelling as well, and you've been doing that since you were really young. When you were in that middle school and high school kind of age, did you have anyone who introduced you to this, or how did you get introduced to the storytelling? I know you said you were super creative and you were just out there, in the woods and kind of making up stories and everything. But did you have anyone that really introduced you to the storytelling?
Well, my sister is 10 years older than me, and she is not only an avid reader, has been her entire life. She's also a book editor. She actually edited my book. She was always around, in terms of reading and books, and I had a massively huge imagination, and that's from growing up. Like I was kind of an only child because my siblings are so much older than me. So I spent a lot of, one-on-one time with myself. So huge imagination. And then eighth grade, actually, remember Mrs. Williamson uh, introduced the class. It was like the last class of the day. I went to like a private Catholic school. So like small school, small class. But the last class of the day from like 1:30 to 2:15 was creative writing. And everybody in the class was like, lame, stupid, and like kind of used it as like a free period because she didn't like really push, it's kind of like soft. And I was like, yes. And I would just handwrite like these massively long stories. I would talk to her with them like after class. And she was really, dude, I remember she was like, she had me read one of my stories, like in front of like all the classes, like, and look at the time I had no, like at the time not thinking, but been doing a lot of self-reflection looking back on that. I'm like, that's pretty like that's pretty cool. Like if my son, had told me like, oh, my teacher wanted me to do that, like that's pretty impressive. And that's cool that teachers or people do that kind of stuff. I didn't realize how valuable that was at the time, but looking back on it now, that's yeah, I guess that gave me the encouragement. I don't know. It was just always in me. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. And then high school, so the very next year, I meet Mr. Corbett, and he sees the fire in me, and I mean, literally, dude, that's all I ever wanted to do was just like make movies. I slept in every other class, and I would only be awake for your production. And he looked at me. He's like, dude, you belong in LA. You just need to move down there. And so it's just always been in me. I don't know.
Well, and I think that's powerful, especially at a young age, to have somebody in elementary school. You know, I don't want to say put you on the spot, because she definitely didn't put you on the spot as far as like a gotcha kind of moment, but she gave you the avenue to share this story, which I think is really awesome, as you just said. And then to have a teacher in high school who's saying to you, you belong in LA, you belong out there making movies, is also super powerful. Because listen, let's face it, teachers in high school and teachers in school in general, they talk, right? They talk about what students they have, and oh, I have so and so, I got Ryan McCoy, oh yeah, he slept through my whole class, oh, he slept through mine too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like, I'm sure he had heard things. And instead of him going to you and saying like, dude, if you don't get your shit together, you're not going to be doing anything, he's like, you belong out in LA making movies. I think
Yeah.
I think that's cool for him to stand behind you like that, and say, and give you the support.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like I clearly again, I literally just talked to him 2 weeks ago. And we often reminisce and stuff. But it was like, and this is true to this day. I have come up with some crazy ideas and things that most people are like, no way could you pull that off or whatever. All I need is one person that I trust, or that whose opinion I value, to tell me it's a good idea, or like, yeah, that could work. And that's all I need, and I'm off to the races. And so like when Mr. Corbett's name, when he told me that, I remember exactly where I was standing. I remember the classroom, everything. And he's like, Rhino, you belong in Hollywood. You should go. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, he says I can go and make movies, so I'll go and make movies. And then so like I wanted to move right out of high school. I was going to just move down to LA and just figure it out. And my dad wanted me to go to a university. You know what I mean? So like those other things come in, that in hindsight, whatever, you can look back on whatever. But yeah, it's very funny. Like, that's all he needed to say was that one thing. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just do that then.
And so you get down to LA, and did you have any
Let
idea?
me say, hold on.
Yeah.
Let me just touch on something real quick that maybe your audience might appreciate this. If I'm guessing your audience correctly, but the reason, like when I say like it's just always in me, storytelling, I've figured this out recently. let me put heavy, heavy, heavy importance on this. Everybody gets to watch movies, and everybody has a favorite movie, and everybody has opinions of movies. And to the far vast majority of human beings, movies are just that, a movie. Movies like saved my life. Like movies, I had a really like horrible childhood, and that inflicted with, you know, my brain not being wired like other people, and we can get into that in a minute. But like I grew up with so much like uncertainty that movies I could always fall back on, and they never let me down. Like no matter how good or bad the movie was, it's like I mean, I love them like deeply. It's like they're right below importance in terms of like the life of my child. That's how much importance I put on. So when I say like, yeah, I'm a storyteller, whatever, it's like looking back on it, I now know why. It's because I grabbed onto movies so hard that they were the only thing that like got me through, you know? So,
Well,
you know,
it's
everybody has their like, you know, favorite growing up movies. I'm like, no. Like, I don't think you really understand. Like movies like have saved my life, literally. So
it's the
yeah,
equivalent. It's the equivalent of sports for some people.
sure. Yeah.
Sports and or triathlon or running or cycling or swimming or like that can be a lifesaver for some people, and it can pull people out of the darkest depths that they have ever been in their entire life. So let's stay on that for a little bit,
Yeah.
and let's
But
talk about.
here's the thing that's really fucked up. So let's use sports. Okay. So let's say, you know, baby LeBron or whatever, and basketball is his thing. Well, people can see he's got talent, he's got
Mhm.
skill. And people can look and watch that and be like, I can't do that. Everybody, everybody says they have a great idea for a movie. And do you know how insulting and pissed I get when people say that to me? Like physically pissed, because I'm like, you have a great idea for a movie. Do you have any fucking idea how much blood and tears and just how many times you get a punch in the face to get the audacity to have your idea become a movie and seen by an audience and then get shit on, and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I like so again, deeply deep passion about that. Movies are such a hard thing. Like I wish, I hate to use to say I wish, but like, look, I'm an artist. I'm a right brain, whatever side of the brain it is. I am hardwired to that. It would be so great if I were a musician and I could just sit at a piano and get these feelings out.
Mhm.
But I can't. I can do it through writing, but I can't share it with the world. I can publish a book and this and that and stuff like that. But my number one way of how I express myself is through a visual medium. And it requires it not only like money, but people and time, like, and years. Like, you know, a painter can go and paint on a canvas and get that emotion out. That's what an artist does when they say that. Like, that's what great musicians do. Like, they're getting shit out, you know?
Mhm.
That's how I do it. I can't get it out any other way. I'm horrible at communicating in real life with people. Like, I'm bad, but but writing is my jam, you know?
Yeah.
And so it can be so frustrating because, you know, like if you can't breathe without getting these emotions and these feelings out and getting and wanting to share them with the world, that burning thing, but it requires so many other facets and so many other factors for that to even happen. You know, it's a very fucking difficult industry to be in, you know, because it messes with your head like that.
Well, and we'll talk about it, but it's messes with people's heads so much so that there's, the whole aspect of mental health in Hollywood that has been an issue. And like I said, when I was reading your email and I was doing some research, as soon as you said mental health and Hollywood in the same sentence, I could think of three people right off the bat within 5 seconds of reading that sentence, that have had mental health issues. And those are the ones that unfortunately have passed away. So we now know after the fact, which is that's just the most unfortunate thing that's it's surrounding it. But like they were out there in the open with it, and there's probably I can't even imagine how many people who are struggling that are silent and they're not out there in the open with it.
And to be honest, I don't think there's actually that many people at all out there in the open with it. Look at that video, and I use, when I say like, I mean all the entertainment industry. You know, it's all very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, and there are a lot of great artists of our time that have either were diagnosed at the time or have later since been diagnosed, or probability of having some sort of mental disorder, whether that be bipolar or schizophrenic or anything. I don't like to stick on a single label or not, but because it's so confused, like we just don't know enough. We hardly know any of it, anything about it. I saw this statistic that we know more about the universe than we do about the working of the human brain, which I could believe.
Yeah.
So Hollywood and the entertainment industry itself almost acts as a magnet, because if these people are wired a different way and they're wired and they have that artist gene, well, chances are they're going to stand out in some way or another, because their brain doesn't think the same as others, and so they're and people label that as like genius or ultra creative or whatever. So Hollywood not only acts as a magnet to it, once it brings you in here, it does every possible thing in the wrong way towards somebody who has a mental illness, and let alone if that thing is undiagnosed or it's unaware of, as in the case of Kanye West or myself, that it doesn't hit until age 36 or 38. That's some really fucked up shit. That's really like, I, I mean, I don't know. There's the video of Chester Bennington a day before he hung himself, and he's laughing with his family and playing with his kids.
Yep.
And people were like, "Oh, that's what depression." It's like, no kidding. Like, welcome to the club. I'm glad that we can all look back on that. Now, let's try to, be proactive about this stuff, and let's bring it up in conversation. There was a time when people were afraid to talk about AIDS.
Right.
And so I definitely think we're in the beginning stages of it being a real important topic of conversation, because especially in Western civilization and American upbringing, and I've had this conversation with my dad 40 or 30 plus years in the military. Like, you don't talk about your feelings, you boot up. Like,
Yep.
Lisa, I'm dead serious.
Yep.
And to now have to come out at age 36, 37, 38 and have these conversations with him of like, Dad, I'm why I'm real fucked up. I'm wired like whole, like it's a whole mess of shit. And it's invisible, and I can try my best to explain it to you, but it's it's just something like it was like a realization all of a sudden of like, oh, so everybody doesn't just think like I do. That's weird. I just assumed that's what it was, because I grew up not even knowing that mental illness existed. So if if we can talk about it now and bring it push to the forefront and have it be part of the conversation, like, I hope when my son gets old enough, and I mean, like, I don't know, 10, 12, 13, I can have a conversation with them and be like, look, it's in your DNA. It's in there somewhere. It's up to your environment, up to us as parents, and to yourself, how it comes out or where it comes out or how you're able to use it. It's a superpower in some cases. In other cases, it can kill you or make you kill somebody else. So let's it's like addiction, anything like alcoholism, like it's in your family. Let's talk about this. Let's bring it up. Let's make you aware of it at the youngest age possible so that you're ready for it, and you're equipped for it. We talk about germs and diseases, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is that why?
So,
And is that why you're so passionate about it? Because you had, not only are you in the Hollywood industry, so you've gotten to see it there, but you've also had an experience with it yourself, and you had like a super gnarly breakdown in March of 2017. So, are you passionate about it because of your experience, or are you passionate about it because of your, I guess, your experience like in Hollywood, or is it a combination of the two?
it is fueled mostly, if I'm being honest, it's fueled mostly by my um, anger and hatred towards my own industry. I'm a very, a very easy person to figure out. If there is a life or death moment, I'm the one that I run forward towards the danger, and whereas most people, their instinct is to either stop or look or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
My just gut instinct is to just run into it, um, and just attack things. I yeah, I mean, okay, so no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm pissed at the industry because it's just uh, I because I know it, and like I know it, and I watch what's being sold to the world. Like, hey, Me Too's great. Um, do you know how fucking horrible it still is? Like the cards that people are playing, the band-aids that Hollywood is putting over its wounds is laughable. Like there's still so much shit you have no idea. It's still all very, very real. Everything is for the dollar. So I'm, like I said, going back to, I'm very anti-establishment. I'm very anarchist. I hate big pharma. I hate big Hollywood. I hate the media. You know what I mean? I'm like against all of it. So to go back to the digital, the YouTube, the streaming stuff, where like we can go direct to the consumer, go directly to the audience, skip all that middle bullshit, and like let just do something for the people, spread messages for the people again, instead of making it have it be a money making machine. Um, yeah, and it almost killed me. Like that night, I won't get into. I mean, I'm not afraid to get into details. I chronicle. By the way, if you want to read all about this night, I wrote about it in explicit detail in my book. It's an entire chapter dedicated to it. I also, on my podcast, my very first podcast I released, 1 year to the date of that night. I go into it in detail that, but I died that night. I died, and I almost like killed my family. Uh, and and the reasons that it happened are undetermined, because there's a 10% of me that knows it was a message from the universe and I was meant to receive it. But so I always fall back on that thing. But I was working on a sequel to my last film that I produced, Evidence. I was working on the sequel, and I was there with my friend who was going to direct it, and he was co-writing, and so yeah, it just and I mean, in retrospect, it got me to a place. So had I not been avidly working on or actively working on a script right then, would I hold as much angst towards Hollywood, or much blame towards Hollywood, or anger about it, mental illness? No, probably not. But you know what? Fortunately, that's not the case, because I really hate Hollywood. But I laugh because I'm going to take all of its money and all of its fortunes. I know where my morals and where my heart lies, and I know what's going to happen in 30 years, and I know where everything's going to be, and I'm going to be ready for that. Whereas Hollywood won't be, and then they'll fall. and then I'll laugh and I'll have my victory. You know. So yeah, I do blame it. I use it as fuel, and because I look at this next generation of filmmakers coming up, and I'm like, you guys have no idea. You have no idea, you know? And like kids are dying, dude. Like people are dying. You know, for every story that gets national news, by the way, let alone international news, I don't know how big your audience goes, but there's 10 local stories and then probably another 20 or 30 micro stories that don't even make local news of people that you've never heard of but they're in the industry or wanting to be an actor or trying to be this, that murdered their girlfriend, that went crazy, that jumped off a fucking bridge. Like those stories happen all the time, but people living on the East Coast or whatever don't hear about it because it's not, the celebrity's not big enough. It's not Heath Ledger.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, Chris Cornell.
Robin Williams, Anthony Bourdain. I mean, we could sit here and just start rattling names off.
It's Jason Terrell, who'd been in LA for 8 years. They'll run clips of him as like a day player on NCIS or whatever. They'll show his highlights, but that's like over 8 years. Everybody has a fucking everybody. If you've been in LA long enough, you got a fucking credit you can throw up that looks legit to people that don't live in LA. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So they'll throw those, make his name look bigger than actually who he actually is, when actually he was a fucking bouncer at some club in Venice, and murders his girlfriend. Like that's a real story, and nobody will ever hear about it. But when you live here, you see it and you hear it, and that's the industry, man. That's because there's so much fakeness, and there's so much like just like the chances of anyone making it are microscopic at best, and that opening is closing, getting smaller and smaller every single day.
But there's areas, there's other areas that are opening up too, and I think
matter, but people are so blind by the statues, by the red carpets. Mm-hmm. It's real. They'll deny it all they want, but I like, if I'm being honest, you're like, oh, would you want, like, I mean, I hate social situations, and I also don't trust myself in terms of what I might say on camera or something like that. But like, of course, you think I don't want to have a red carpet premiere for one of my movies?
Right.
Of course I do. I don't give a shit about it. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the fame or anything like that. But that would be nice. A little recognition on a global scale. Sure. Because let's be nice for a second. The Bradley Coopers, all the people that we watch, those people have worked their fucking faces off. Let's just be very clear.
Yeah.
Nobody makes it just overnight. Like nobody. And that's another thing that like pisses me off when people say like, oh, how did this person come, or that person has no talent or whatever. It's like, regardless of their level of talent, they still fucking made it. And you cannot make it without an enormous amount of work and discipline and time and sacrifice and all that. So,
and one of your people, I was gonna say one of your main goals is to kind of pull the curtain back and expose some of these things that are going on. So aside from here on the Do It For Yourself podcast and talking about it, you have your own podcast, you also have your own blog, and you have people from the industry who come on and talk about, is that what they're talking about? And is that one of the ways that you're pulling back the curtain? Or how else are you pulling back the curtain so that people can see this and people can become aware of what is going on in this industry and how it's impacting people?
Right. So yes, that's exactly my thing. So first, through my podcast, I'm allowed to bring guests, and I've tried to pull from. I've had screenwriters, stunt people, music composers, actors, so people can just hear, because that's the other thing. Like, there's so many great jobs in this industry. Like, if you are a carpenter, you can make a killing and be well protected by unions building sets for a living. And you get to work around movies and work in movies. It's fun, you know. You work your face off, but like you get to say, "Oh, I build sets for movies." How cool is that? Instead of I build apartment buildings in, you know, Wyoming or something. But yeah, sorry, I lost the train where I was going with that. You were asking me.
How aside from your podcast, or if it is your
That's
podcast
right.
and your
That's right.
vlog,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
how are you pulling back the curtain?
So currently with my vlogs, as I'm outlining the screenplay, I'm literally showing my home office and the post-its and just explaining step by step of how my process is and breaking down, because I haven't seen any of that online at all, of any screenwriter of any worth basically giving master classes or whatever for free.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, look, I don't know if any of this stuff makes sense. This is just how I'm doing it. And I also want to showcase the insane amount of work that goes into before I even sit down and open up Final Draft and start writing a screenplay. Like every other screenplay writer out there, dude, just opens it up and starts writing a screenplay. And that's insulting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it takes so much work, you know, or they just don't put in the work ethic. And then the other thing I will be doing as soon as the next time I'm on set, the next project that gets going, I'm whatever money I have or I'm getting paid, I'm going to take some of that and hire a D-Rock to vlog every single day that I'm, you know, pre-production, production, on set, post-production. I want to show everything. Like I hate those little behind the scenes things that they release about movies. They're such shit. Like show me, like I literally want to put somebody on set, follow me around every single day. I'll show you everything. I'll show you how we're coming up with everything, show you how a set works, you know, what position, you know, what everybody does. And I just think that would be amazingly valuable. I know if I was growing up and I knew I wanted to make movies and that was something, I mean, I watched as much behind the scenes stuff as I could growing up. Because I think it makes it real, you know?
Well, and also
people.
you're going to have the ability to do that and to show as much as you want and tell as much as you want because you're an independent filmmaker. So you don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't really have someone who's telling you what you can and cannot say, which is why you can do what you do with your podcast. It's why you can do what you do with your vlog, because this is yours. No one is saying, okay, we want it this way. No, we want it that way. No, you can't say that. No, you can't do that way.
Yeah, and that's why I'm doing all this foundation building groundwork now, so that when in the next 12 to 18 months, funding finally hits for one of the projects, whether that be the overdose one, the graphic novel, or this TV series, everybody will already know. It's already been established. Like this is what I do. This is my thing. And on top of that, I've already put all my shit out there. I've already put everything out there. So nobody can then say, well, you can't say that or you can't do that. I'll be like, I already did.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's on the internet forever. So I guess you don't want to work with me then. And you know what? That's that's the stand I will make. It's too important to me. It's just too important to me. I would rather not work with somebody. And this is true. I've passed on certain screenplays of mine for tens of thousands of dollars up front at the time, which at the time and even now would, holy cow, would that be amazing. But I knew what their budget was. I knew how they were going to shoot it, and I knew it wouldn't do the story justice, and so I passed. I've done that several times, and so it's the same thing now. Like, and the people I've partnered with and people that are working, they know, and I'm like, just so you know, when we get into like, I'm not going to be quiet. I'm going to be really, really loud about things. And fortunately, the people that I'm surrounding myself with believe in me and feed off of that energy and that fire, and agree with me. So they're like, yeah, let's go for it.
And I actually recorded a podcast with a woman whose name is Laura Briggs. She's actually also a writer herself, but she's writing more on like the blog side and everything like that. But she came to a point where she was almost about to break, and she started off January just completely fresh and was like, "Yep, I am from now on, I am only working with the people who I want to work with. I'm only doing it this way." And she said, she was like, it's amazing how much of a difference it made for me, and like how much happier I was, and just everything. She said it was just absolutely incredible. So I can see how that's very, very beneficial for you.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And it's really easy to like say, and but when you and to think like, oh yeah, no, everybody around me is really positive and good, no, and they might be like some of your closest friends,
Hmm.
but when you really, really dig underneath it, or you actually bring in somebody, or somebody comes into your life who actually is super positive, things just start happening. It's very weird. It's a lot easier to see like, holy shit, maybe I should just, get rid of these three people and just spend more time with this one person because they're so positive and whatever. So yeah, it does matter the people that you surround yourself with.
Now, you mentioned it earlier there, just really quick, but I do want to kind of dive into this a little bit. You mentioned, when one of these things gets the funding, you'll be able to hire somebody to come behind the scenes and everything with you. How do these projects get funded? How do you said earlier, like, yeah, you eat shit for a living. Like, how do you make money? How does this all work out for you?
Any way you can. And so far, I have yet to play with anybody else's money. I mean, a little bit, but nothing, to the level that I need now moving forward. Um, Anywhere you can, private investors. There are companies, just like there are VCs that invest in businesses or startups and stuff like that. There are companies and people that invest in movies. You usually have to put together or have a package put together, so you can't just yes, you need a great script, but if you have actors names attached, directors attached, people with a track record, uh, you know it's really fucking hard. It's really, really difficult to get the funding. It's really difficult, and you get close, and projects go hot, projects go cold. I mean, it takes years and years, and that's still true of like big Hollywood movies. Some movies take like 10 years, 15 years to get made, and they'll say that, but people don't really like. I don't know. I just don't think people. They're your average moviegoer. I don't think that really sinks in. And yeah, I mean, I have I have screenplays that, yeah, I mean, yeah, 10 years old that are great, that have been like super close to like, oh, people are like, we're gonna make this, and then just fizzles out, or something new or more fresh or something comes along, and everybody chases that butterfly for a while, and you're kind of left there like, oh, I thought we were gonna make this, but I guess not. you know yeah, like constant rejection. Yeah, that's the other thing, man. Going back to that is like, I don't think people realize, it's like, I've lived my entire life having been rejected, because I've always put my stuff out there, and it's always, you know what I mean. So I'm
Hmm.
like, and by now, like, I'm calloused over it, and nothing affects me. But to like a regular person, like to get that much rejection, and especially if you put your heart and soul into something, it's like super personal or whatever. That can be really hard to take constantly, you know.
Yeah, you're taking and the thing of it is, Hollywood is under a microscope, and everybody is constantly criticizing everything that comes out of Hollywood. You have Rotten Tomatoes, you have
Oh,
all of these
fuck Rotten
reviews,
Tomatoes, by the way.
and I
Oh,
mean, it's like everybody is constantly under a microscope, and people are people are going into deep dark holes over comments that are left on Instagram posts. Like, I can't even fathom having this project that you put absolutely everything that you possibly have into. You put it out there, and then people just absolutely rip it apart.
yeah, and I mean, there's no other better example than my movie Evidence, which I finally uploaded the full version on my YouTube channel for free because it's just been ripped off so many or uploaded so many times. It is a solid 5.3 stars out of 10 because the comments are split completely down the middle of people loving it. Like, literally, this is one of my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time, to people on the other end being like, this is the biggest piece of garbage I've ever seen. And I'm like, did you guys watch the same movie? I mean, it's super strange. It's super strange that people can be so different. And I think that's where you can that's reading all the really good stuff. I think kind of like bounce out like, oh, well, if somebody can say something that ridiculously good, because I look at my movie and I'm like, there's so many things wrong with it. But like, for somebody to leave a comment, it's like, this is my favorite movie or one of my favorite horror movies of all time, which there are thousands of those. Then you look at the ones that say, this is the biggest piece of shit. I can't believe I wasted my time with this. You can look at it at both extremes, because I don't think that person's right at all. The movie's good. Like, it's not the biggest piece of shit in the world. Yes, it has its problems, but it's a lot better than the majority of films.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, it's also not the greatest piece of cinema, nor is it
Right.
in the realm of greatest horror movies ever made. Like, that is the truth as well. So when you look at both sides of that, like, you can't take either one with any 100% certainty, you know. And
Yeah.
so you just do it for yourself, and look, you do the best you can. It's each one, you know, they say each movie is like a kid, and they very much are. They're all very different. You love them for different ways. You do the best you can with each one, but eventually there comes a time where you have to wipe your hands and say, this is it, and this is what will live forever in the ethos, and move on, you know.
And so you just mentioned it there, but I want to kind of preface it and give you a chance to let people know where to connect with you. But um, I want to first start off by saying thank you for sitting down with me as we start to wrap up, and just
Sure.
thank you for coming on and sharing your story, sharing what you're up to, and sharing some of the things that you are so absolutely passionate about. We are on opposite ends of the country. We are recording this not technically face to face, but I could feel and sense and hear your passion for these things that we got a chance to talk about today. And I think that that's really important. So thank you for sharing all of that with us. And, I really, really appreciate that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you reaching out to me. And yeah, like I said before we got on, I literally have not stopped pacing this entire time.
Yeah.
I could talk. I could talk forever. Not that I love talking about myself, but it's kind of the industry and things I'm passionate about. And so, yeah, I could talk about things I'm passionate about in perpetuity, I think.
So I want
Yeah.
to give you a chance to let everybody know where they can find you and get connected with you before I give you this last point that I would like you to make.
Sure. Okay. That's great. Appreciate it. Basically, Rhino Rider. That's my kind of alter ego. RYNORYDER, all one word. That's my YouTube channel /Rhino Rider, Instagram @Rhino Rider. Those are my two main things. Although I do post on my Facebook and stuff like that. My podcast is through Anchor, so anchor.fm/Rhino Rider. And Yeah, that's pretty much it. And yeah, I'd love to, I love to connect with people. So if people have questions or whatever want to connect, I'm more than happy to dive deeper, answer anything, and or you can follow along and see what kind of shit I'm up to.
Cool, man. All right. And so the last thing that I wanted you to touch on and I wanted your thoughts on is you literally just mentioned it there. You said sometimes you just have to do it for yourself. So to you, what does it mean to be doing it for yourself?
It's a good question. To me, what that statement means is that um, I I put it in the in area of importance on an almost equal level as I do my child or my relationship. And let me dive a little deeper. Um, I was listening to a different podcast, and she was saying, she was a writer, and people asking her like, what does that mean? She's like, if you can take the best 2 hours of your day creatively, that you're clearest thinking, and instead of putting that attention towards a loved one or towards a different job or whatever, you put it towards writing. If you're willing to make that sacrifice, then you're a writer. That's, and that's very, very true. I guess what it means to be doing it for me is that I don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks or does, including my kids, including my now ex-wife. I chose my path of what I'm trying to accomplish and what I want to do over my marriage and my relationship. Now, soft point, everything is immaculately amazing, and and has worked out extremely for the better. But I'm not joking when like I the amount of importance I put on to this um, is so deep that I couldn't. There's nothing else I would rather do. I would want to be doing, and I'm not even doing it at the level that I want to be doing, or as much, or making as much impact as I want to be making. Um, and so doing it for me means like look, I know it's only going to get busier, and I know it's only going to get bigger, and it's going to get scarier. It's going to get a lot scarier. And when I say that, the reason I say that is because I'm going to be entering into an industry where I've already built a foundation of being against it. So, I'm interested to see how that plays out. Um, Hence why I'm documenting so much, because I think I can make a blueprint for 15-year-old Tom or Sarah in Wichita that is like, well, shit. I want to be like that. I want to be against it. I want to carve my own path in the industry. And all the greats, Spielberg, Zemeckis, Kubrick, all the greats carved their own path. They just did it in a different era. We're living in a different era now. You cannot look at anyone's career path now in my industry and say, well, they did it like this, so I'm going to do it like that. The game has completely changed. So doing it for me means as literal as that can be taken, is complete utter selfishness of doing something 100% solely for me because it makes me feel good. Because once I start doing that, then am I able to give selflessly to all the other areas and aspects of my life. uh, if I need to write or work and I ignore my son for an hour and a half, I know that once I switch modes and go into dad mode, I'm giving 100%. So he's never getting. I'm never sitting there checking my phone or watching something on TV while I'm playing. It's my attention is here. So I need it now. This needs my attention because this is important. Now this. Now this. Now this. Now sleep. Now wake up. Now do it again. This. Now sleep. Now wake up. Now do it again. And I will do that forever. I'll leave you with one more quote. It's from, I'm a big heavy metal fan, rock music. There's a line that says, live my life like I'll die tonight, dream like I'll live forever. Loved it. Always, yeah, that's me. Literally, it hasn't been in the last like 4, 5, 6 months that I've really clicked over, and I've really figured that out. I wake up every single day thinking I'm going to die, saying this is my last day on earth. So what am I going to do? Now, that doesn't mean jump out of an airplane or anything extreme. No, because I can find bliss and happiness in the most minute of things, whether that be, figuring out a plot point in my story or watching my kid run around and play. Like, I'm good. I'm happy. I'm Phil. So I could die every single night. But while I'm awake, I'm dreaming of the stars, and reaching higher than anyone else. So that dueling thing every single day, just wash, rinse, repeat over and over, keeps me focused. I don't know what to say, but yeah, keeps me in my lane, keeps me driven.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, I just want to take a minute one last time here to say thank you so much for joining me on the Do It For Yourself podcast. I am pumped to get connected with you, and I am pumped to share your story here and have a chance to talk about some of the things that are going on out there that, as you said, are not out in the open, and there are things that definitely do need to be out in the open. So thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to sharing this episode with all of the followers and the listeners of the Do It For Yourself podcast and your followers as well.
Awesome. I appreciate it, man. This was a lot of fun. Thank you very much. And hope everyone has an amazing week.
You too, man. Thank you so much.
Or day, whenever they hear this.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, later.
All right, my friends, that is all I have for you today. That is my interview with Ryan McCoy. How is that one sitting with you? Are you a movie watcher, a movie goer? Do you enjoy consuming some of these movies, whether it be on the big screen, on Netflix, Hulu, some of these other channels? And were you aware of some of the things that the people on screen could possibly be going through while they are making this content for you to consume? As I said in the intro, this was something that was completely eye-opening to me. It was something that I knew nothing about, and so I really wanted to get Ryan on the show to give him a chance to put this out there and have a platform to share this, and also to tell his story about how he got into this and some of his experiences while going through this. So I hope that you all enjoyed this interview with Ryan. If you enjoyed this interview or any of the other interviews that we have here on the Do It For Yourself podcast, please do me a favor and share it with someone who you think is going to enjoy it, whether it be friends, family, followers. You can take a screenshot, post that on your social media. Word of mouth is one of the most important ways for me to grow this podcast. So I thank you so much for spending some time with us, and I really look forward to sharing another episode